Welcome to another Sabbath day. I'm not going to say the other thing because that's exactly what this lesson is about today. It's going to show you the origins of what we call New Year's Day today, okay? Because you got to understand, the Lord's time is different from man's time. What the Lord initiates as the beginning of the new year and the first month is different from man's. But we're going to show you where the origin of the Lord's come from and where the origin of man's come from, okay? Because the Lord is the one who initiates the times and the seasons, okay? Mankind cannot change that. Even though he tries to, he can't. But a lot of times the things that mankind likes to do usually goes against God. So we're going to point that out today with today's lesson, okay? So the title of today's lesson is The Lord's New Year versus the Paganism of Man's New Year. And with that being said, we're going to start off in Exodus 12. It's going to be Exodus 12, starting in verse 1. And we're going to read to about verse 8. If we get there, brother, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
All right, stop. So now the Lord is labeling, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. But we're going to find out later what the name of that month is, okay, and when that month begins. So keep reading.
Verse 3. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts on the upper doorposts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
All right, now the reason why I had them read all that is because there's something that goes on within this first month, okay, which is the first month of the new year in the Lord's eyes. Okay, and we're going to read and find out later, this is the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread happened within this first month of the Lord's New Year, okay? So, along with that, there's other events that happen in this month too, in the Lord's New Year month. Not in this one, not in January, but in the month that we're going to find out what the name of it is and when it is, okay? But what I want you to do is I want you to also skip down to verse 12 and then read 12 to 14.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
All right, stop. So now what the Lord said in verse 13, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. That is the significance of the Passover. This is where it comes from. When he told Israel to put the blood on the two side posts and on the upper posts of the houses, so when he sends that plague through Egypt, it'll pass over them. Okay? This happened in that first month of the new year, that first month. Keep going, verse 14.
And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
Okay, all right. So now, verse 14, he tells you we shall keep it a feast and an ordinance forever. Okay, forever means forever. Okay, that means it's not done away with. Didn't do away with in the New Testament. We're still supposed to be observing this in the first month, even to this day. Okay, so now skip down to verse 18 and read through 20.
In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread, until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened, in all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread.
All right. Now, we're going to skip over to Exodus chapter 13, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4, and we're going to find out what the name of this month is that the Lord is talking about. That is the first month of his new year. Okay? And so now, without any further ado, Exodus 13, and then we're going to read verses 1 through 4. So when you get there, brother, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb according to the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand the Lord brought you out of this place. There shall be no leavened bread be eaten. This day ye came out in the month Abib.
Okay, so now we learn the name of the month that the Lord is talking about, where the Passover and the unleavened bread are in, and the month that he brought Israel out of Egypt is called the month of Abib. Okay, so now we're going to get into the definition of Abib and find out what time is the month of Abib and what the meaning of Abib is. So I got this definition from the Webster's 1828 dictionary. And just go ahead and read that.
Abib, Webster's 1828 dictionary. To produce the first or early fruit, a full-grown ear of corn, the first month of the Jewish ecclesiastical year, called also Nisan. It begins at the spring equinox and answers to the latter part of March and April. Its name derived from the full grown of wheat in Egypt, which took place anciently as it does now at that season.
Okay, so now we just learned the word Abib means to produce the first or early fruit, a full-grown ear of corn, and the time of the year that it happens is around late March, early April, which is springtime. So this time is where the month of Abib happens. So in this month, at this time, is the beginning of the year, according to the Lord. Okay? The first month of the new year is called Abib, which happens in late March, early April, in the springtime, which makes perfect sense because in the spring, everything comes back to life. Everything is revived. Everything is new again. So why would the Lord start a new year in the dead of winter where everything is dead and dying? It only makes sense that the new year would start at a time where everything's coming back to life and everything's sprouting up new again. See, this is how the Lord makes sense logically, okay? Even when he does things physically, it just totally makes sense. Okay, so now we know the month of Abib is late March, early April, in the season that we call spring. Okay? This is where the new year begins with the Lord. So now, with that being said, we're going to get into man's new year and find out what comes along with that. And we're going to find out where that originated and how it started. So I have this book, The Cold Holidays. You can order it on Amazon. It tells you the history of these things, these days. So, brother, start.
New Year's Day. As the nation of Israel was preparing to leave Egypt, God instructed Moses concerning the beginning of the year. This month of Abib, March/April, on the Roman calendar, shall be to you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. This understanding was necessary for the proper observance of God's feasts and holy days.
Stop. Now, we just read in this book that just confirmed what the Bible said about the month of Abib, okay? This is the Lord's first month of his new year, okay? And you have the Passover and unleavened bread, his feast, within this month. Keep going.
This understanding was necessary for the proper observance of God's feasts and holy days, which do not include the first day of the year. In fact, nowhere do the scriptures teach that Christians are to celebrate the beginning of the year. Like most of the world's so-called Christian holidays, the celebration of the New Year's is an ancient practice steeped in paganism.
Stop. Okay, so now we just read that this ancient practice of New Year steeped in paganism. But we're going to learn more about it. Keep going.
The earliest known celebration of the New Year took place in Babylon around 2000 BC in mid-March and was associated with the spring equinox. A variety of other dates tied to the seasons were also used by various early cultures. The Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Persians began their New Year with the fall equinox, and the Greeks linked their New Year to the winter solstice.
All right, stop. So now you can see with the Babylonians, they started theirs in the spring originally, okay, but then other cultures started in the fall, and then it eventually got to December, to the winter part of it, okay? But where it started at the right time of the year, okay, because this is the time of the year that the Lord had initiated as being the beginning of the new year. But keep going.
In ancient Rome, the first day of March was designated as the beginning of the year. At that time, the Roman calendar only had 10 months beginning with March. The month of January did not exist until around 700 BC, when Pontius, the second king of Rome, added the months of January and February. The 1st of January was initially celebrated as the beginning of the year in 153 BC, in conjunction with the start of the civil year, as January was the month in which Roman consuls were elected to begin their one-year term. Julius Caesar introduced a new solar-based calendar in 46 BC, the Julian calendar, in which January 1st was officially decreed to be the beginning of the year.
All right, stop. So now we just read that was it Pontius actually changed from, because on the Roman calendar originally, their new year started in March, okay? And there was only 10 months. But then Pontius comes along and changes it and adds January and February. Okay, so January and February are not original months. They were added to the months. Okay? And then he messed around and turned January 1st into the new year. Okay? And so then in 46 BC, he introduced, Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, which was the first calendar that started to initiate January 1st as the new year. Okay? This is man's doing. This is what man did. God did not ordain this. He did not tell them to do this. They did this. And we're going to find out why. Keep reading.
In most of the Roman world, January was first consistently observed, but dissension eventually arose. In the Middle Ages, for example, the Roman Church actually attempted to abolish January New Year celebrations, claiming that they were pagan.
Stop. Okay, so now we just read they attempted to abolish New Year's at first because they knew it was pagan. Okay, because this whole New Year's Day is steeped, it comes from paganism. But we're going to read more, we're going to find out more. Keep going.
The result was that a variety of Christian dates were used throughout Middle Ages to mark the new year. Ibid. In 1582, the Gregorian calendar was adopted throughout Europe, and January 1st was again proclaimed to be the beginning of the year. The gradually adopted in Protestant countries.
All right, so now we just read that. Now the Gregorian calendar, which came along later, also introduced January 1st as the new year, but it started with the Julian calendar, and then it just carried on to the Gregorian calendar. All right, so keep going.
The Catholic Church followed suit immediately, but the calendar was only gradually adopted in Protestant countries. January was named Pontius for Roman god Janus, who was said to have two opposing faces, one looking forward and one looking backwards. Julius Caesar believed Janus' two faces symbolized looking back at the old while looking ahead to the new.
Stop. So now we find out where January comes from. Okay, it comes from a pagan god named Janus, who's supposed to have two faces, one in the back, one in the front. I don't know if you ever seen a picture of that, but the face in the back is supposed to represent leaving behind, and the new one is going forward. But this is where the name January comes from, okay? And which the Catholic Church, like I said, adopted it and everything quickly. But we're going to find out more, because actually this day right here, for the so-called, for what the Bible considers the Jew, which is us, Israel, this was a terrible time for us. And we're going to find out more about it as he keeps reading. Keep going.
The Greeks paraded a baby in a basket at the start of the new year to represent the spirit of fertility. Hence, the modern New Year symbol of a newborn baby picturing the coming new year and an elderly man winding up the old year. In most parts of the world, the new year was celebrated as a religious, cultural, and social event, usually marked by traditions symbolizing the casting off of the old and the embracing of the new. Roman pagans observed the new year by engaging in drunken orgies, which they claimed were to be reenact the chaotic world that existed before the cosmos was ordered by the gods.
Hold on, read that again. I don't know if everybody heard that one.
Roman pagans observed the new year by engaging in drunken orgies, which they claimed were to reenact the chaotic world that existed before the cosmos was ordered by the gods.
Stop. So this is how the Romans brought in the new year, with drunken orgies, okay? And if you notice, even today, when people like to party on New Year's, they get wild, they get crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's probably, this stuff hasn't stopped. I'm pretty sure it was a drunken orgy probably going on somewhere last night somewhere. Or somebody's wife committed adultery, somebody's husband committed adultery, something. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the tradition of it. That's where they came in. That's what the Romans used to do. And if you know about Roman culture, they used to get down like that a lot. So, just wanted to point that out. Keep reading.
Even before the Gregorian calendar was officially adopted, many areas of Rome had already begun to celebrate the 1st of January for another reason. But the 8th day from December 25th, falsely taught to be Jesus' birthday, the first day of January was celebrated as the Feast of Circumcision. Based on biblical command, the male babies be circumcised on the 8th day. However, the Bible nowhere commands the celebration of one circumcision.
Stop. So now see how they try and mix in some things in the Bible with their own doctrine, okay? Because, the Lord ordered all the firstborn males, all the males, that's the covenant he made with Abraham, to be circumcised on the 8th day. But he didn't tell us to celebrate that. But as you can see, they tried to make a celebration out of it. Okay, so this is just an example of how Satan works through man, and he tries to mix the truth with some falsehood and come up with his own doctrine because of it. You see what I'm saying? But that's why you have to read the scripts, and you have to look at and read and study what the script says, what the Lord says, so that you know you're able to tell the difference between what the real truth is and what the lie is. So keep going.
But there was a sinister side to this seemingly innocent tradition. In the Roman Church, Jesus' circumcision was believed to have initiated the reign of Christianity and the death of Judaism. Thus, throughout the medieval period, the first day of January was blatantly anti-Jewish. On that day, synagogues were ransacked or burned, Jewish books were publicly burned, and Jews were tortured and killed. In keeping with anti-Jewish trend, Pope Gregory XIII decreed on New Year's Day, 1577, that all Roman Jews were to attend a special Catholic conversion service, which was to be held in Jewish synagogues every Friday night. A year later, on New Year's Day, Gregory signed in a law, a tax on Jews to pay for a house of conversion used to convert Jews to Christianity.
Okay, stop. So now, this is what went on to the Jews that were still in Rome, okay, at this time. On New Year's Day, they were killed. They were forced to do a Catholic conversion in their synagogues, okay? In their synagogues on their Sabbath day, Friday evening. That's the Sabbath. And then later try to tax them on it. So for a Jew who was in Rome at that time, New Year's Day was a bad day for you. It was a bad day for us. Whoever one of us was still over there. It was bad because it was strictly to just be anti-Christ. With that, I mean, it doesn't get any more anti-Christ than that. You're over there, the Catholic Church is trying to convert Jews to Catholicism, doing it in their synagogues on their Sabbath day, then trying to tax them for it. How disrespectful is that to the Lord's people? See what I'm saying? This day was not a good day for the so-called Jew. Okay? But keep reading.
Again, in 1581, on January 1st, Gregory ordered the confiscation of all sacred literature from the Jewish community, leading to the death of thousands of Jews. In Catholicism, each saint is awarded a particular day on which to be honored. December 31st, New Year's Eve, is Saint Sylvester's Day, and celebrations dedicated to his memory are held on that night.
All right, so now we find out what December 31st, who is really honoring. This dude named Sylvester or whatever. Once again, a Catholic, okay? Keep in mind, Rome is the sworn enemy of the Bible if you read the Bible, okay? Catholic Church goes against everything that the Lord said for us to do in this book. The commandments tell you don't have any graven images, don't bow down to them, don't make anything. Guess what? Thou shalt not serve other gods. Guess what? You go to a Catholic church, first thing you see is the image of saints and what they think angels look like and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
Statue of Mary.
Yeah, all that. You know, statue of Mary. You know, Mary didn't die for you. Jesus did. Why do they worship Mary?
That's right.
Mary was a vessel used to bring Christ into the world. And that's all she was. There was nothing other than, if it wasn't for that, she wouldn't be special. She wouldn't be anything. Okay? She was highly favored because of that, because she was carrying Christ in her womb. Okay? But Christ is the one who died for us. That's the one we need to give honor to. But if you read the history of Mary and the baby Jesus, you'll find out that that comes from paganism too. Comes from Nimrod and his wife Semiramis and her son Tammuz. That whole image. It just, over time, different cultures adapted the same thing but just named it different to where it got to now Mary and the baby Jesus. But on your own time, do some research on that and you'll find out where that really came from. That's why you have to stick to what the book says. Okay? And not what man says. But keep going, keep reading.
Who was this saint? Sylvester was the Roman Pope who reigned during the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD.
Wait a minute, the Roman Pope? There we go, the Pope. Who reigned over the Council of Nicaea? Yeah. Do your history on the Council of Nicaea and see what came out of that. Okay? But once again, the Pope, do your history on the Pope. The Pope has a image of being a religious person, but he's not. Okay? It's all kind of wickedness associated with the Pope. Not just pedophilia. I mean, embezzlement, any law you could think of that's been broken has been done by popes throughout the centuries. Okay? They've always sat on the side of kings. They've always, advised kings and everything. Even to this day, it's still the same. Every president in the world at some time has to go and see the Pope for some odd reason. All our presidents, all the American presidents have met with the Pope. Russian presidents have met with the Pope. Why? Why is this guy such a key character in politics? Because the truth is, the Pope is really honestly a king. He still is. He is. Okay? And as we get further and further in these last days, we're going to find out. We're going to really end up finding out and seeing who he really is in the times to come. But aside from that, let's get back to this. So just go ahead and keep reading.
Prior to the council, Sylvester managed to conceive Constantine to ban Jews from Jerusalem. Then, during the council, Sylvester arranged for the passage of a host of viciously anti-Semitic legislation. Even today, Jews have nothing but contempt for January 1st, and the nation of Israel refuses to recognize the day as a public holiday.
Okay, so now, we just found out that this guy Sylvester, talked Constantine into coming up with anti-Semitic laws for these Jews out that were there. Okay, so I don't know everything all those laws were, but it definitely wasn't good for them. And if you know anything about Constantine, Constantine is the one who mixed true Christianity with paganism, and that's why you have what's called Roman Christianity, which came out of the 4th century, which is what the majority of the world is on today. That's why the churches today that claim they're Christian, that's why the churches today that claim they're Christian celebrate Christmas and Valentine's Day, Halloween, all of these pagan holidays steeped around idolatry, which the Lord clearly told us to stay away from. Okay? So now with that being said, that was it. Okay, yeah, go ahead and read that last one.
The idea of celebrating any kind of New Year's Day is clearly without scriptural backing. And the fact that our modern celebration of January 1st as New Year's Day is linked directly to paganism and prejudice should give pause. New Year's is just one more example of man's rejection of the Word of God while illicitly taking from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Okay, so now we just read up on New Year's and where it really comes from. So just like Christmas, New Year's is pagan also, steeped in paganism, pagan roots. Because once again, the Lord told us to observe the month of Abib, okay, which is the first month of the season of spring, which marks the beginning of the new year. So with that being said, we're going to flip over to Deuteronomy 16. We're going to flip over to Deuteronomy 16, and we're going to read verse 1. When you get there, go ahead.
Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
Okay, stop. So the Lord tells us in chapter 16, verse 1, observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. So this is an event that happened in the Lord's time on his first month. Okay? Some crucial things, important things that happen. So now, we're going to go into a few more scripts, and we're going to find out some things that happened in the Lord's first month that happened in the Bible in the Lord's first month. So we're going to flip over to Numbers chapter 20. And we're going to read verses 1 through 13. Numbers 20, verses 1 through 13. When you get there, brother, go ahead.
Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh and Miriam. And Miriam died there and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people told Moses and spake, saying, Would God that we had died with our brethren died before the Lord? And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us into this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink.
Okay, so now at this point, the children of Israel are in the wilderness of Zin, in the desert of Zin, in the first month, the month of Abib. So this is around springtime, okay? And they're complaining to Moses because they don't have any water to drink. Okay, so we're going to find out what Moses did to help them out. So keep going.
And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, And speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth them to water out of the rock. So shalt thou give the congregation and their beasts drink.
Okay, so now the Lord just instructed Moses to speak to the rock so that the water can come out. So pay attention to this. He ordered him to speak to it in order for the water to come out so he can quench these people's thirst. Okay? Keep going.
And Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock. And he said unto them, Hear now, ye rebels, must ye fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice. And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also.
Okay, now did the Lord tell Moses to smite the rock? No. He told him to speak to it. So because of that, this is what the Lord had to do to Moses because Moses didn't follow simple instructions. Okay, keep reading.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believe me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them.
Okay, so because of that one thing that Moses did, he got himself cut off into bringing them, this congregation, into the land which the Lord had promised them. All because he didn't follow simple instructions and just do what the Lord said and just speak to the rock. But instead, he did a little too much extra. So the Lord took offense to that and basically cut him off from bringing the children of Israel into that land. And if you read later, you find out that, I guess Moses, he was able to see the land, but he wasn't able to go into it, and he ended up dying shortly after. So that's one thing that happened in the month of Abib, in the first month, which is the Lord's first month of the year. So now we're getting to something else that happened at that time also. We'll flip over to Joshua chapter 4, verse 19. Joshua chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 19 through 24, and then chapter 5, verse 1. Okay, so when you get there, brother, go ahead.
And the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch in Gilgal. And he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, When your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean these stones? Then ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you, until ye were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us, until we were gone over. That all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever.
Okay, so now, at this time, the Lord dries up the river Jordan so that the Israelites can pass over and come into this land of Gilgal, which is the land of the Canaanites, to help fulfill that promise that he made to his people about the lands that he was going to give them. Okay, so now go ahead and go into chapter 5 and verse 1.
And it came to pass, when all the kings of the Amorites which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel, until we were passed over, that their heart melted, neither was their spirit in them any more, because the children of Israel.
Okay, so this just showed the Lord's mighty hand by him doing this, okay? And also fulfilling the promise that he made to them. And this happened, once again, in the first month, in the month of Abib, which is in the springtime, which is the beginning of the Lord's new year, okay? So now, we're going to flip over to 1 Chronicles. 1 Chronicles chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 15. First Chronicles chapter 12. And we're going to read verses 1 through 15. Then we're going to skip a little bit. And but we'll start at 1 through 15. So when you get there, brother, go ahead.
Now these are they that came to David to Ziklag, while he yet kept himself close because of Saul the son of Kish. And they were among the mighty men, helpers of the war. And they were armed with bows. They could use both the right and the left in hurling stones and shooting arrows out of a bow, even of Saul's brethren of Benjamin. The chief was Ahizar, then Joash, the sons of Shemaiah, and Gibeonite, and Jaziel, and Pelet, the sons of Asmaveth, and Barakah, and Jehu, the Ethonite, and Ishmael, the Gibeonite, a mighty man among the 30 and over 30, and Jeremiah, and Jaziel, and Joathan, and Josabad, and Jedarothite, and Elazai, and Jeremiah, and Beliulah, and Shemiarah, and Sheptianah, and Hepburite, and Elkanah, and Jesiah, and Ezriel, and Joezer, and Joashbim, and the Korites, and Joliel, and Zebdiah, sons of Jeroham of Gedor, and the son of Gadites, that separated themselves unto David into the hold to the wilderness of might, and men of war fit for battle, that could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as the roes upon the mountains.
All right, so now these are mighty men that are gathering along with David. Okay, and the point of this is because the Lord had already said that the kingdom of Saul was going to go into the hands of David. So now this is the process of it happening. He's building his team, he's building his army, getting his mighty men ready so that they can overthrow Saul and get the kingdom, which the Lord had already ordained. So we're going to keep. So we're eventually going to we're going to see that in a minute. So just keep reading.
Ezar the first, Obadiah the second, Eliab the third, Mishmanah the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth, Attai the sixth, Eliath the seventh, Joathan the eighth, Elzabad the ninth, Jeremiah the 10th, Macbaniah the 11th. Those were the sons of Gad, captains of the host. One of the least was over 100, and the greatest over 1,000. These are they that went over Jordan in the first month, when it had overflown all his banks, and they put to flight all them of the valleys, both toward the east and towards the west.
All right, so now these are the men that he gathered and got to support him to carry out this mission. And this happened in the first month. It says, verse 15, these are they that went over Jordan in the first month, when it had overflown all its banks, and they put to flight all them of the valleys, both toward the east and toward the west. Okay, so once again, this happened and started to happen in the first month, which is once again the month of Abib in the springtime, which is the beginning of the Lord's new year. Okay, so now skip down to verse 22, read verses 22 and 23.
For at that time, day by day, there came to David to help him, until it was a great host, like the host of God. And these are the numbers of the bands that were ready armed to the war, and came to David to Hebron, to turn the kingdom of Saul to him, according to the word of the Lord.
Okay, so like I just said, we just read it now. It said, these are they, and these were the numbers of the bands that were ready armed to war, and came to David to Hebron, to turn the kingdom of Saul to him, according to the word of the Lord. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to have him read all this, but basically what this is, he's getting a certain amount of number from David's brethren, the children of Israel, all the tribes. The Lord is bringing about a certain number from each tribe to gather along with David, along with the other people who gather with David, all in order to get the kingdom of Saul from Saul and give it over to David. So this is the army that's forming, okay, for David. And if you read 24 through if you read 24 through 37, it basically names all the 12 tribes of the children of Israel, a number that was taken out of each one of those tribes to assist David with this goal, okay? Because the Lord had already called it, so now this is how it's coming about, okay? But for time's sake, I'm not going to go through all that, so I'm just going to have you skip down to 38 and read 38 through 40.
All these men of war that could keep rank came with a perfect heart to Hebron to make David king over all Israel, and all the rest also of Israel were of one heart to make David king. And there they were with David 3 days, eating and drinking, and for their brethren had prepared for them. Moreover, they that were nigh them, even unto Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, brought bread on asses and camels, and on mules, and on oxen, and meat and meal, cakes of figs and bunches of raisins, wine and oil and oxen and sheep abundantly, for there was joy in Israel.
Okay, so now they brought all this stuff together, like it says in that very last paragraph, and there was joy in Israel for this. So this is a reason to celebrate right here, that David was about to be king over Israel, and that the Lord helped establish all this army of men, David's men, and then men from his brethren tribes, to help him accomplish this goal. And it says there was joy in Israel. That's a reason to celebrate right there. Okay? Because we all know that David was a man after the Lord's own heart. Okay? And so he now, right here, he's about to become king of Israel. That's the reason to celebrate. These are the kind of things that the Lord's servants rejoice over. Okay? Not all this pagan stuff that comes along with these man-made traditions and holidays. Because as we just read, some very important events happened in these first months, okay, that are associated with the Lord. Important things that happened. So now, with that being said, the Lord's New Year opposed to man's New Year, the Lord's New Year, he's the one who initiates the time and the seasons. Man cannot change that, no matter how much he tries to, okay? Because don't think that the Lord still isn't going off the years and the months according to how he said it. He is. We're the ones who are off. We're the ones who are doing things backwards. But you got to understand who's also running this planet right now. It's Satan. So anything that Satan is running, of course, is going to be contrary and opposite to the way God would have things, okay? But I just wanted to give you a little insight on today's day, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably know by now that Christmas is pagan, but you don't really hear New Year's talked about too much. But as you can see, New Year's is just as pagan. And also for the so-called Jew, which is, the Jew, which is Israel, the real Jews, it was a bad time of the year for us. So with that being said, I hope you all got some understanding out here, and God bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I ordered that back in, I forgot, I think I was watching one of Elijah's lessons. They was doing something, and I ordered that like in 2014.
Hey, what's up, man? I heard what you just said, my brother. My brother, he don't even celebrate Christmas anymore.
Yeah.
And I was kind of getting on him because he got kids and shit, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, bro, he wasn't raised like that. Like, we was, we would open up toys and enjoy Christmas, you know what I'm saying? When we was kids. And I felt like he shouldn't do that to the kids. I mean, for him, that's cool. But for the kids, no. That's just my opinion, bro.
Well, the thing is, too, you got to look at it as a parent. You're the one that's responsible for watching out for your kids. So when you let them do stuff like that, you're introducing them to that paganism, and you're going to be held against that. You know what I'm saying?
What the fuck is paganism, bro? Like, I'm lost.
It's false. It's idolatry. It's worship of false gods.
Guys, that's not real.
Guys, it's not real.
So it's not. So this is not God's birthday?
No.
That's
Hell.
bullshit?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? Man always tries, man, people don't study this enough. You know what I'm saying?
I haven't read the Bible. I mean, I don't even read the Bible, to tell you the truth. I don't.
Man. That's what I'm saying. know, but when you start
I
reading,
don't understand it.
You gotta get to the right people.
yeah.
The right people will show you how to break it down to you.
Hey, brother,
It's all about money.
if you ever want to come to one, our church is on 79th and Broadway. It's called Israel Church of Jesus. You ever want to, learn about the Bible and everything? We teach out this Bible, man. We don't teach
That prosperity
that
stuff.
prosperity and all that other stuff. It comes from the book. If it don't come from the book, we don't support it. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what's supposed to be taught, the word. You know, gospel ain't prosperity.
You
It's
the pastor,
salvation,
man?
repentance. What's that?
You the pastor?
I'm not a pastor. I'm just doing my work.
What's
But,
the pastor's name?
These
Brian.
are different states, but here's the one
Brother
from Los Angeles. There's a few teachers there. And the one reason why most people don't understand the book, because they don't teach it the way the Bible says you're going to learn from it.
They do
It
it
says
for
precept got to be upon precept, line upon line, here little, there little. So you got to take a verse here, verse here, verse here, and put it together. The reason why God did that, because he said, the devil's going to be here to try to deceive the whole world. If he just left it all plain and simple right there, he could easily change it. But if you put something here, 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 and here, most people ain't picking up on it. Because do your history. People have tried to change the Bible to this day. That's the reason why you got a lot of different versions,
Right.
and they've changed stuff. But when you go and say it's like Jehovah's Witnesses,
So
it wasn't. They changed their book more than once to fit their
so
teaching.
they started.
So when they'll say, see, this is what it
people
says
started
here.
to catch on
When you
to
go to the
some of
original
his
Bible, you
BS
say, okay,
that
what
he
about this
feeds
here, and
people.
this here, and this here? They like,
So all that money,
they
all that
didn't
little
catch
money
that because they didn't wait.
scheme,
God put it like, you almost kind of put it together like a puzzle in a sense. So
Exactly.
Saturdays at 1 o'clock, our
It's all
lessons
gonna catch
start.
up. It's all gonna come back
We
full
show you
circle.
precept on precept because it's always going to be in context on the same topic, just in different spots. And that's how God said you're going to get understanding.
Thank you,
So,
brother.
all right,
Hey,
brother.
man, thank y'all, man.
No, you're more than welcome.
Hey, what's your name, bro?
Tony, brother.
Tony?
Yeah.
All right, I'm Brother Cam. This is Jordan. This is Marcus.
Good to meet y'all.
Yeah,
man.
man.
Happy New Year, man.
Celebrate the New
I
Year.
know,
The New
we
Year
know.
starts in the springtime.
Happy New Year,
Yeah.
man. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Whatever
no,
you,
just
whatever,
the
whatever
happy,
you
blessed
celebrate,
Sabbath.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like blessed Sabbath, like you said, what he said.
Blessings upon blessings, man.
Yeah.
You have a number? There's a number on here?
Yeah, but I don't think.
I've been fighting my demons, bro. I'm not gonna even lie to you, man. I
Church number.
had a talk with God this morning, and I was telling them that, like, I know I'm doing I'm out here I'm not doing wrong. I can't say I'm doing wrong, but I'm carrying this shit. That's just my protection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
men
I
of God
told
do
them,
that.
like, I said, look, I know I'm doing wrong, but this is, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, please,
So I don't
Jesus.